I hope you are doing safe and sound at your homes. And here we are with another space talk conducted by SEDS Sri Lanka. And we are going to talk about a very interesting topic. And also, everyone should talk about this topic more often. So, the topic is women in STEM education. So, I think, ladies, it's your time to ask questions that you are holding up for a long time. And obviously, gentlemen, we are open for your questions too. I think first of all, I'm going to introduce myself. I am Dasuni Hewawasam from Southeastern University, representing SEDS Agni. So it's a one of chapter of SEDS Sri Lanka, and I am currently doing my major in physics. Today I am here with my friend Saba. Hello, Saba.
Hi Dasuni. Hi everyone. This is Tamima Saba from Southeastern University of Sri Lanka as well, and I represent SEDS Agni. I'm also doing my physics major at the Faculty of Applied Sciences. I would request Dasuni please start with some details about the organizers.
Yeah, I think first of all, I should talk about what SEDS Earth is. SEDS Earth is the international chapter of students for the exploration and development of space, which is a central node for communication between the worldwide chapters like SEDS Sri Lanka, SEDS USA, SEDS India, like more. And this organization would mainly serve to SEDS nation to increase the popularity of space within the global student population. And I think, Saba, you should say something about SED Sri Lanka too.
Sure, why not? SEDS Sri Lanka is handled mainly by SEDS USA, and it has been founded by Amila Sandun Basnaika on 1st of September 2018. I'm very happy to say that up to now we have around 10 chapters all around the island, and several successful events have been conducted by different chapters. So, Space Talk is one of our attempts to let people know more about space, and this is our sixth Space Talk. Let me come up to our topic now, women in STEM education. So what really is STEM? In STEM, S stands for science and T for technology, E for engineering, and M for mathematics. And we all might have realized by now that advancements in STEM have proved to contribute highly in any economy's growth. And the participation of women is important in STEM. We can give an example by the fact that Royal Society of Edinburgh, it has declared that the high skill contribution of women can benefit the economy by around 170 billion euros per year. It's fantastic, right? So we'll be knowing more facts and more figures and many things because we are here with two very talented young women in the STEM field. Let me welcome Shreya Santra, PhD in space robotics. She's studying at Tohoku University. And also we have with us Alison Waterman, electrical engineer from New York University. Hi, Shreya. Hi, Alison. I would like to please start with Alison. Would you please tell us more about yourself? And then followed by Shreya, please.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me on the Space Talk. My name's Alison, and as you mentioned, I'm studying electrical engineering. I'm interested in a lot of space technology related to satellites and robotics, and also UAVs, so drones. And I've been living in the UAE for the past 4 years. And so I'm representing SEDS UAE. We're a bit smaller. We only have one chapter of SEDS here in the UAE, but we have a lot of activities related to student interest in STEM as well. So it's really great that we can collaborate on this.
Okay, that's nice. Shreya, would you please tell us more about yourself?
Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whoever is listening over here. So thank you, SEDS Sri Lanka, Dasuni and Saba for having me here today. I'm Shreya Santra. I'm from India. I did my undergraduate in electrical and electronics engineering in India and master's in space systems at International Space University in France and Skoltech, Russia. And currently, I'm a PhD student in aerospace engineering at Tohoku University in Japan. And my research is based on multi-rover communication and coordination for planetary exploration. And I'm quite, and ever since I have been into the space domain, I have been involved in a lot of outreach program through SGAC, the Space Generation Advisory Council, And through this, I get to know a lot of cool young space people from around the world. And yeah, that's my introduction. Thank you for having me here.
Wow, that's fantastic, both of you. So why don't we start with the questions then? My first question will be to both of you. What is your STEM field, and why have you chosen this specific field? Can I go with Alison first, followed by Shreya? Alison.
Sure. So my field is electrical engineering, and I actually wasn't one of those people who was always interested in electrical engineering. So my path was a bit not exactly straight to get there. So I had a biology teacher in high school who really inspired me, and because of that, I was really interested in biotechnology. And so I started to research more about technology. And during the course of my undergrad, I drifted away from bio and toward more electrical engineering and space technology. So later on, I started to become more interested in that, and that's kind of how I got involved in the field. And then here at the UAE, there are a lot of exciting activities related to space. For example, this year they launched the first astronaut from the UAE to the ISS. So a lot of things like that that were happening in the country really like strengthened my interest in space research.
I see. Shreya, would you please continue?
Okay, so as I mentioned, my field of research is space systems engineering. And why I chose this field, because since childhood I have been enchanted by the stars and the planets, and enjoyed reading books on cosmology and astronomy, and looking at the night sky and everything. So, and I loved all the science subjects while I was in school. So I was like, yeah, I would either become a doctor or an astrophysicist. But then, when I had to choose a stream after my intermediate, I went for engineering. And I was like, okay, I love maths and physics more than biology, so I'll go for an engineering course. And I still, although it was not aerospace engineering, I'll come to it later. But yeah, I that's how I got into engineering and then aerospace engineering, and that's how STEM happened.
I see.
Okay. Thank you so much for both of you. And after listening to your stories, I'm just curious to get to know about this thing. Were you inspired by someone to choose your field because you guys were in some field and you guys had some debating thoughts inside you? So, were you inspired by someone actually to choose your STEM field? I will go for Shreya first.
Okay. So yeah, there have been a lot of inspiring figures who kind of motivated me. So firstly, I would say like Indian American astronaut Kalpana Chawla was my first inspiration. And I was also inspired by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, who was the missile man of India and also former president. So I followed all their work throughout my childhood. I would read their biographies and books and everything. So that was very inspiring. Close to home, of course, my parents, they were very encouraging. They would encourage me to read science fiction books and non-fiction books. They would take me to public libraries to read all these kinds of encyclopedias and things like that. My science teachers at school, they were very inspiring for me. I think that's how like they introduced me to the mysteries of science and kind of developed the scientific temper to solve problems in school itself. So my school teachers were very inspiring for me.
Alison?
Yeah, I've also had a lot of people who have inspired me to study science. One of them was, like I said, that high school teacher that inspired me to go into biotechnology, and then later I ended up going into aerospace. Another person is Sarah Al Amiri. She's the Minister of Science here in the UAE. And one of the things that I was wondering about is like, can aerospace technology really benefit society? You know, people say, why should you study space when there are problems to solve here on Earth? But I attended a talk where she really like answered that question. She said, you know, when a country has a strong aerospace program, it raises the level of their science and technology, and a lot more people can be involved in that level of, you know, education and science and manufacturing and everything. So that was something that really inspired me. And then another thing that thing that inspired me was there was a hackathon during my undergraduate where we had to like design an experiment like we were investigating Mars. And so after that competition, I was able to work with some classmates, and that was something that really inspired me to study science.
I see. Okay, so I'll get to the next question then. The World Economic Forum, according to them, one third of female students who want to study in the higher education, they would only choose maths and engineering, only one third. The fraction is really very low. So there must be some kind of difficulties that they face or something. So I would like to ask both of you that tell us about the challenges, if any, in educating yourself in the STEM field. Can I go with Alison, please?
Yeah, so thankfully, a lot of people in my life have been really supportive. So I haven't had a lot of significant challenges, but one of the labs I've worked in before, I was the only woman in that lab. And I think that experience taught me a lot because sometimes you kind of have to like advocate for yourself, if people are not listening to your opinions or they assume that you're less experienced. Sometimes if you're the only woman in that environment, you really have to stand up and make sure that, your opinions are heard and that you can, I guess, be confident in yourself because I think a lot of women maybe doubt themselves, especially if they're a minority in that environment. So you have to like realize that failure is part of the process and self-doubt can be part of the process too. But to overcome that, I think is the biggest challenge.
I see. Shreya, please. Please, the challenges that you had
Hmm.
faced maybe or are
So
facing.
I come from a very small town in India, and there's no aerospace or astronomy is not a career option over there. So like getting an aerospace degree in India is pretty difficult and very limited prospects. So I think the main challenge that I faced while I was growing up was the lack of awareness, and somehow I had to educate myself and pave my own path because I had no one to guide me to getting into what I wanted to. Like uh, during my I did my undergraduation in electrical and electronics engineering because I realized like if I want to get into aerospace engineering is a very interdisciplinary subject. So electrical electronics can give me a very solid foundation. And at the same time, during my 4 years of graduation, I continued doing a lot of online courses on edX and on YouTube. And this I'm talking about 2012, 2013, and we didn't have a good internet connection even in my university. So like it was very difficult, but I continued to do that and I started applying for aerospace internships and like and I got fortunately I got a good internship which had a space related to it, and that's how I got to know more about the prospects for aerospace engineering, for space science, and I got to know people who were involved in this, and that's how I paved my path from the very limited resources that I had. And other than that, like of course, everywhere in the labs, I'm the only single woman, whether it was in Russia or even now in Japan, I'm the only woman in my lab. So yeah, that's a bit of a challenge, but you know. It's okay if you are good in your work, they really value you. So yeah.
That's great to know. Great to know.
Yeah, and thank you so much, guys. Yeah, everyone have their struggle in life, and finally, when you are end up with a place that you can be happy, it will be the most happiest thing that you will ever get in your life. So I am sure there are so many girls around here, and today with us who wants to be like you guys. So maybe they are already following STEM field subject, or maybe they are still debating themselves like you guys were debating at that time, like which one to choose and all. So Alison, would you please explain a STEM field to a young girl? How would you explain it to a young girl?
Yeah, so I think the simplest way I can explain what STEM is using data science and technology. So, for example, engineering is really like this methodical process of solving problems. It's about evaluating, what solution do I need? What are the constraints? Or like, the different aspects I need to take into consideration when I'm developing my solution, and then like what are the different solutions and the pros and cons of them. So I think it's not always just about the technology itself, but it's about like the way of thinking, using data, using like all of the different tools that we have to understand the world better and develop solutions for it.
Okay, thank you, Alison. I think Saba is gonna ask the next question.
Okay, so you all might already know about Katie Bowman, right? The woman behind the first image of black hole, and we might have known about the spacewalk. So we know Jessica Meir, we know Christina Koch, and Sunita Williams. We know about that astronaut, right? So they are doing pretty cool stuffs in their fields. And I would like to ask both of you, like, what are some cool stuffs that people work on your field? Can I start with Shreya, please?
Okay, I think you already gave out my answer. I think the coolest profession in space field is human space exploration. Of course, like when we are kids or even now, like we want to become astronauts because it's you see the Earth from space. It's a different kind of feeling, and uh, I I think that's a very cool profession. But not just because of that, but the magnitude of complexity and the challenge that's involved in planning a human mission to space, that's very intriguing. It involves people from different fields, from like scientists, from medicine, from engineering, policymakers even, and it's a proper demonstration of proper teamwork, and it involves a lot of planning, months and years of planning. So I think it's very cool and a very challenging profession because human lives are at stake, and then there's so much involved in it. And I think I'm very glad in contributing for something towards the human settlement of uh, on Moon or Mars through my robotic technology, through my research on robotic technology, that I believe it's a precursor to human missions. So yeah, that's what I think.
I say. Dasu, would you like to ask, please?
Okay, now there is a question that we got from our audience. So the questions is that I think I'm gonna ask this question from Alison. So because she's kind of into biology stream also, she was. So the question is, are there any space opportunities through the biology stream? Obviously, we know. I think some people are not aware about that. So, Alison, would you please explain about that more to them?
Yeah, absolutely. So astrobiology is a really interesting field. And as Shreya mentioned, human space exploration, in order to get humans to Mars, we need to know how to keep them alive there. We need to develop technologies that can support human life in other places. So that involves a lot of biology work, understanding how life support systems work, how to design spacesuits, and also things like, is there life on other planets and in distant parts of the universe? And all of that involves biology. So I think there are areas where biology and aerospace can intersect for sure.
Thank you, Alison. So I think I am gonna ask this question from Shreya. So Shreya, if I remind these people, Shakuntala Devi, obviously you know, so who was a human calculator, and Kalpana Chawla, we talked earlier also, your inspiration character, who we really miss today, and whom we missed in the Columbia disaster, obviously in 2003. So we had really great minds among us. But the statistics says that only 20% of researchers are female in Asia. So according to your perspective, like where are we lacking behind that fewer South Asian girls are participating in this field?
Okay, so I believe uh, it's a big flaw in the society. Because the foundation needs to start in early childhood. And me coming from a small town, I have observed how like girls are not are discriminated again since they are kids. Like they are not allowed to go to a good school while their brothers go to good schools. And this attitude is a big hindrance for young girls to dream, because they don't even know what lies beyond, what are the opportunities that are in this field. And even after they get into this field, the challenges are not ending, because a lot of schools and technical institutes are not designed for diversity. The infrastructure is not good enough, or there's not a proper environment for girls to regularly attend classes. So that's a big hindrance in South Asian countries, I believe. uh, and like, even in my institute, I have had these kind of discrimination while I was in my undergraduation. And after you graduate, after you are in the STEM field, and even then, after a few years, women are compelled to choose between family or career, which I believe is very unfair in this 21st century, because it's not just the woman's responsibility for maintaining a family. Thirdly, I think there's a serious lack of role models, local role models, not Kalpana Chawla's, people whom we see on TV, because it's very far, but local role models within our communities, within our families, within our neighborhoods. Uh, that's why girls don't find an inspiration or an identifiable route to pursue what they dream of. So I know many women, many of my friends, they are into technology, they are doing great, but people don't know them yet. So I believe if young girls can get to know these women, they get to identify and then they follow them. So it's very important that we bring these successful women into the limelight or introduce them to the community, to the society. And that's how we can encourage young girls to get into STEM field.
I see. So, might be knowing about the 17 Sustainable Development Goals set by the UN. And according to this, science and gender equality are both important in order to reach those goals, right? But we see gender stereotyping, gender bias are the hindrances. Now, according to one, just let me show one statistic, maybe like 12% characters that these girls can actually follow. Maybe in the movie, like we see Gravity, we have watched Hidden Figures, Katherine Johnson, right? So there are like only 12% characters shown with identifiable STEM jobs on screen are women. It's in the US film industry, one of the biggest film industries. So the thing is, my question to Alison is that, according to your perspective, do you think gender equality is there in the field of space?
I think, as you mentioned, we still have a long way to go. I think there are a lot of opportunities and a lot of possibilities for women to be involved and to achieve in this space, in the aerospace engineering field. But as you mentioned, the statistics show that there is still a big discrepancy. And I agree with a lot of the factors that she mentioned, things like having to balance family and career, because often in the US, you'll see the undergrad statistics are a lot more gender balanced. But then as people progress toward the PhD, the gender balance becomes more unequal. And I think that some of the factors that Shreya mentioned probably account for that. So I think there's still quite a lot of work to be done, even in the US, not just in Asia, but also in the US to achieve gender equality.
Okay, I see. So if I add something to that, like we see the salary gap among female and male, and the amount of getting promotions, and also we see that kind of thing when it's come to gender equality. We talk about those things. So we have way longer to go about this thing. So I think I am gonna ask another question. I think we got another question from the audience. Saba, would you ask that question?
Sure. So the question is, how do we get more girls into the STEM field? Can I ask this to Shreya, please?
Yeah, sure. So I believe first we have to show them that there's a lot of opportunity over here in the STEM. It's not just like you have to be seriously a scientist or you know completely into research, but there's a lot of other opportunities in STEM. There's very cool stuff to do, and that's what we need to make people aware. Awareness is the main key, and also identifiable local role models, as I said, like uh, women who are successful, who have achieved something so far. They can go, and we should all go and educate girls as well as their families, their societies, to encourage girls to go to school, to higher education, and let them follow what they dream of.
I see. Alison, can we get your perspective in this? How we can get more girls into the STEM field?
Yeah, I think one of the important things to do is kind of create a community where women feel more accepted. One of the things we've been doing at my university is we have a Women in STEM organization that arranges a lot of events like workshops, guest speakers, like meetings with female professors and things like this. So there's a strong sense of community among the women who study STEM fields. And I think that's a powerful tool that when people are maybe doubting themselves or facing some discrimination, they have this community of people who can relate to them. So I think that's one way to get more girls involved in STEM is through these kinds of opportunities.
I see. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, both of you. And I think if we ask something that related to your life, what are you guys working on these days? Shreya first.
Okay, so I'm working on space robotics. As I said, my research interest is multi-rover communication and coordination. So I'm trying to build a communication architecture between multiple small rovers that will be talking to each other and exchanging information and coordinating with each other to explore surface on Moon or Mars. So that's what my research topic is. Other than that, I'm also working on two papers from SPSC and other projects that I'm involved in, space, all space related.
I see. Okay.
Okay, Alison, would you please tell about you also?
Sure, yeah. So one of the projects I worked on, I did an internship at the US National Center for Atmospheric Research, and there I was working on a computer system for a satellite that was going to measure total solar irradiance. So we had a sensor and we had to collect data from the sensors and store that data on the onboard computer. So that was one project I've been working on. Another project is more related to robotics. So I've been working on collaborative control systems of drone swarms. So when you have multiple drones flying, so that's my senior research project at my university.
Okay, thank you so much. And we got another audience question. I think people are really interested in this session. So I think I have to ask this question from both of you guys. The question is, are there any special organization for girls, space organization for girls? Maybe Alison first?
There are a few. One I know of is the Brooke Owens Fellowship, which is a scholarship that exists in the US. I'm not sure how international it is. I need to look into that. But they have space-related internships for girls in particular. I know there's a lot of activity of like other organizations to get more women involved, but I'm not sure if there are any female-specific ones. Maybe Shreya will know.
Okay, Shreya, would you please also tell?
Okay, so I know of the Brooke Points Fellowship, but I think it's restricted to US nationality. I'm not very. Then
Okay.
there's the Emilia Earhart Fellowship, which gives fellowships or awards to women in STEM, not space, but not space specifically, but aerospace and aeronautics related fields. Uh, Other than that, there's an organization called Women in Aerospace Organization. It has chapters all over the world. Mostly, they are very active in Europe, and but they have it in Asia as well. Women in Aerospace. Of course, other if I believe we shouldn't be like very focused on just women associations, but also it's important that we have diversity in all kinds of organizations. I would definitely recommend SGAC, the Space Generation Advisory Council. It's a very diverse organization of young professionals and students, and it has like women, men, everyone doing their work. It's a voluntary organization, and there's absolutely like full freedom to work on different projects over there. So that's something young people in the space field can look into. SEDS and all these organizations, of course, are very useful to start your career in space.
I see. To add to that, let me mention OWSD. It's Organization for Women in Science for the Developing World. It might be very important for the developing world. It is an international organization, and it provides research training, career development, and networking opportunities for women scientists. So, who are in the university or who have just passed, I think they might become a member, or they can try for this OWSD to become part of it. So there is another question from our audience. Our audience is beautiful today. So, okay, how about opportunities in NASA or related companies for girls? So can I ask this to Alison?
Yeah, so there are a lot of opportunities for women in aerospace generally. As for NASA, a lot of them are US citizens only, but I know the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, which works on a lot of NASA projects. You could also come to the US as, for example, a PhD student and get involved in projects that might be funded by NASA and launched as well. And there are a lot of opportunities for women to do that. And then I think something that's interesting is that the private space industry is really taking off. A lot of countries around the world are starting smaller space startups that are not necessarily government as well. So that opens a lot of opportunities for international students involved with space as well. So yeah.
I think Shreya, would you like to add something?
So yeah, like most of the space organizations or space companies, they mention they do not discriminate based on gender for all the positions. So I guess if the woman or the applicant is good enough in that field and in that position, the requirements of the position are met, then they are good enough for recruitment. And uh, yeah, I guess that's it. And
I see.
Alison
Thank
answered
you.
NASA. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Dasuni.
I think Shreya mentioned about SGAC. Me and Saba both actually we got a very good experience via that, and many Sri Lankan students were there who were already following space field. Opportunities and all. So we really had a great time over there, and also very good knowledge over there. I think now we have come to the end of the session. Just one question is left, I guess. So if I start it like this, like everyone says, it's a common saying that STEM is hard to follow, or it's difficult to study. So even I was myself a one, because as Alison said earlier that she was in biology and then became as an engineer. So I was a biology student myself, and I wanted to pursue physics, and I loved physics, so I really wanted to come to that field. So when I was at that time debating with myself, the person who inspired me was Madame Marie Curie. So she is the one who won the Nobel Prize twice in different two fields. So obviously, at that time, reading about her and all gave me a very good inspiration. So, Shreya, being a inspirational character, would you please give any message to young girls who love to pursue their STEM dream?
Okay, so first thing I would say is to not stop dreaming. Nothing should stop you from dreaming. Not your gender, not your age, not your family, nothing. You just need to have faith in yourself Many times you will not have a path to go forward, don't know how to move ahead. You just need to have faith and patience and keep looking for opportunities and make use of the whatever resources you have. Also, there's a misconception that people in STEM are very serious or like scientists or mad researchers or something, but that's not true. You can be funky, fun-loving, and yet you can be a researcher or technologist. You just need to be serious and true to your dreams and your work and your profession. Uh, have a very positive attitude towards all the negative things that are happening around you, and just move ahead. That's what, like, keep moving ahead. Do not stop.
So, Alison, do you have anything to add to that?
I think what Shreya said is absolutely true. And I think sometimes we have, like you said, these stereotypes about what an engineer or a scientist looks like. But really, it's possible to be interested in a lot of different fields. You know, you can be interested in art or music and also interested in a STEM field. Um, and then the second thing I would say is just realize that failure is part of the learning process and try to learn from your failures instead of getting discouraged. Because a lot of just learning in the STEM field is about making mistakes and learning from them. And sometimes people tell you that, like, you know, if you're making mistakes, this is like a terrible thing, you're no good at it, you should just give up. But I don't think that's true. I think that you have to get to the level where, you know what you don't know and you learn from those mistakes. So I would say just keep persisting, keep trying, and you'll reach your goals in the end.
Okay, thank you. To add to that, let me just quote maybe a Nobel Prize winner in physiology or medicine, Barbara McClintock. She said, if you know you are on the right track, if you have this inner knowledge, then nobody can turn you off, no matter what they say. So I truly believe this. And girls, if you are like in in a field that you might not like, and you have this childhood dream of becoming something in the STEM field, go ahead. We need more people in this field, in STEM field, and I think women now who are coming to this field are doing fantastic. We have examples in front of us, Alison and Shreya. And yeah, I think we are almost near the end of our session. And before ending, let me please thank the crew who made this session possible. Let me thank Thilan Harshana. Let me thank Matisha Senanaka, Amila Sandon. And we are now going through a pandemic. It's a very gory situation. And, stay safe, stay at home. Thank you, Alison. Thank you, Shreya, for joining us. Dasuni.
Thanks for
Yes.
having me.
And thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being with us and our audience, great audience. So, have a good night or goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.